Hey, good evening. Welcome to the Stokastic NFL Showdown live before lock. Thursday night football, week 17. Dave Loughran and Greg Ehrenberg. Yeah. Did you know, Greg, this is the last Thursday night football game of the year?
I'm aware, but Saturday football, it is coming. We got Saturday football. We've got still Monday night football this week. But yeah, this is going to be the final Thursday night game.
I know, man. It's sad. It's sad. I mean, the revolution of DFS was DraftKings adding Showdown sites. These are still pretty new. I mean, not super new, but Showdowns have only been happening since 2017 or something like that. Because when FanDuel originally, it is 2017, actually. I know that for a fact because I watched Ben win $50K when you had to play an individual defensive player. And we were watching the Eagles game. We were out in California, watched the Eagles beat the piss out of the Vikings. And I was happy, and he was happy. But you remember they started it, you had to play a defensive player. And then they got rid of that.
You had to play three defensive players, individual defensive players.
One.
No, I thought it was three.
No.
Was it not? I thought it was three. I could be remembering incorrectly.
Maybe that'd be preposterous, though.
I do remember, though, the first Millie Showdown contest for the Super Bowl that year. There was crazy stat corrections on deflected passes, which scored really well because it was very experimental. It was just like throwing shit out there and see what it was that people gravitated towards. And I remember the guy who was in solo first place for $1 million in that Super Bowl contest ended up having a player had like a stat correction that happened and a pass deflection either got added or taken away from somebody. And he went from solo first to falling behind a train like 30 minutes after the game ended. And instead of winning, I remember the lineup went from winning $1 million to like $98 being like the second best lineup behind a train.
Just a brutal feeling. Hopefully we can avoid that today. Have ourselves a good one. Yeah. All right. Anyway, happy to have you guys with us. If you don't mind, take a single second, atone for your sins this evening. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. It's 100% free to do so. Hopefully you guys had for those who celebrated, hope you had a great Christmas. I'm tired today. I can't wait to go to bed. I don't know if I'm going to watch the game.
I hope your guys' local Chinese food place is open yesterday. It is going to be a while until I get over the Chinese food place in town being closed for me trying to celebrate my Christmas by myself yesterday. I might not ever get over it. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to anybody.
It's really rough. Although I tell you should have. I guarantee you, there's another Chinese restaurant within a couple miles.
Not as good as that one.
But
I have tried them all. I've sampled all of them in the time I lived here.
There's always the favorite, but also sometimes it's just dire circumstances, and you throw your hands up. You go, all right, I'll go get the General Tso's chicken from somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, instead I just trolled my mom, and she's like, "What are you doing for dinner?" And I was like, the Chinese food place isn't open. I can't eat. And she's freaking. She's like, "You have to eat something." Like, no, I don't. So I'm trying to explain to my mom that if I ate enough edibles, it would be something to hold me over so I wouldn't get hungry. And then I'd pass out before I got like super hungry. And then I just wake up in the morning and then things would be open. It wouldn't be a big deal. And I was trying to convince my mom this is what my plan was for the night. And she was getting really worked up about it.
Yeah, with a plan like that, you've clearly already consumed multiple edibles.
So that was what I was doing last night, and my mom was I was on FaceTime with my entire family. It's like I was
So
here.
did you just not eat?
I have like soup and stuff at the house.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't really that terrible as I'm making. It was pretty shitty, but worse things have happened to better people.
So Tex, Panda Express is gross, man. Is it just me? Like, I don't know. People love Panda Express. I tried it once, and I was like, this tastes nothing like Chinese food. And granted, tastes nothing like Americanized Chinese food, which is what we're all looking for. SC with a super chat. Thank you, brother. $20. What's up, guys? Just want to give a shout out to the team and the Sims tool. Shipped the $20 two-gamer and crushed in the Baltimore versus Houston showdown for a total of about $12K. Thanks for all you guys do. Awesome, man. That's a nice little Christmas gift. Congrats. Congrats to everybody who had a good day yesterday. All right. Ready to get into it?
Let's do it. By the way, don't sell yourself short. Lofty came in first place I forget which contest it was, but it
was the second one. dude, I log in at like 9:00 in the morning, and the big one, the 200K to first, was filled, which is crazy. So I jumped in the 100K to first and chopped first in that. So first time I've had a good 2-gamer in a long time, Greg. So yeah, we'll take it.
Only takes one.
Only takes one. All right, let's get into it. Interesting game today. Has the spread moved at all? It's 3.5, 4 when I looked this morning.
Let's see. What is it at now? We currently have the game, which, by the way, this goes to show how low the books are on the Seattle Seahawks right now, because this game means nothing for the Bears. It means everything for Seattle.
It means nothing for Seattle, though. This game has zero implications for the Seahawks.
Doesn't it? If the Seahawks lose this week and the Rams win, aren't they eliminated?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter, because if the Seahawks win and the Rams win, they're still eliminated, essentially.
Yeah, but they still need to win the game today.
No, they don't. No, if they win or lose, it makes no difference. I'm 100% positive, dude.
Really? I thought if they win, if they lose, they're eliminated no matter what. But if they win, they're still potentially alive.
No. So if the Rams win, they have no chance. They would go into next week. It would go all the way down to the 5th tiebreaker, of which the Rams have a 9-game lead on, of quality of victory, right? Not strength of schedule, strength of victory. They would have a 99% chance. You don't have to look it up, Greg. I know this. You don't even bother. Just take my word for it.
All right.
If the Rams lose, it's a divisional game against Arizona, which means that it doesn't matter whether Seattle wins or not, because you go into next week, no matter who wins or loses this week, the Rams have to lose, because then the Seahawks would hold the divisional tiebreaker, right? They would hold the divisional tiebreaker, which means next week would be meaningful. So essentially, the only thing that matters for the Seahawks, they could lose this game, it doesn't matter. As long as the Rams lose on Saturday against Arizona, whatever his name is, said the Seahawks still have to win. That is incorrect. They don't. This game does not matter for the Seahawks. I'm telling you. They don't have to win today. They do not have to win. The Rams have to lose. It's that simple. Go look it up. I'm telling you. I did a video on it this morning. I dug deep into it.
I'll put my trust in Loughran and his playoff scenarios here. But yeah, the Seahawks were in the driver's seat for a minute there, and then they some terrible losses by the Seahawks. They lost at home to the Giants this year.
Awful. And who's B Mills said Loughran is incredibly wrong about this. No, I'm not. I'm not. Look it up, dude. Go look it up. If the Rams win, it doesn't matter. That's all I'm saying, Greg. If the Rams win this game and the Seahawks lose, then it's over, right? Like, then it's over anyway. But if the Seahawks lose and the Rams lose, or the Seahawks win and the Rams lose, that's what I'm saying. It's the same situation. It's the exact same thing.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. So I'm not going to look it up. Loughran told me not to. I'm putting my trust in him.
No, don't actually look it up. Go ahead, look it up.
Oh, okay. Well, now I'll look it up.
If the Rams lose and the Seahawks lose, it doesn't matter. That's all I'm saying.
What is the likelihood that none of the games matter next week?
What?
What is the likelihood that none of the games end up mattering for next week?
I don't think much. They're not 2 games behind. They are 1 game behind. How are you guys? Do you guys not have Google? Jesus. Do you guys not have Google? They're not 2 games behind. They're 1 game back. I think it's unlikely. I think the sickest game would be battle for first place between the Lions and the Vikings, because thank you, Hussein. That's what I've been saying. The only game that matters is Saturday night for the Rams. If the Vikings and Lions go into that game in week 18, if they go into that game for the battle for first, whoever doesn't win that is the 5th seed.
By the way, you're sort of correct. So I looked it up. It's actually super complicated.
It's
The
not,
Rams,
though, dude. I know what you're going to say. The Seahawks are going to need like 80 teams to win in week 18 if they win and the Rams win. But it's a less than 1% chance.
yeah, I don't know what the chances are, but there is a scenario where the Rams win and they don't clinch the division this weekend.
Yeah. No. If the Rams win and the Seahawks win, the Rams didn't clinch. But what I'm saying is that the Seahawks would need divine intervention in week 18. It's like a 0.5% chance of them still making it. Whatever. No, they don't have to win.
It's super weird. They need 3. They would need, I don't even know what the odds of this are. So they would need a total of 3.5, under 3.5 wins for the Vikings, Bills, 49ers, Commanders, Bengals, Browns.
Right. It's a lot.
So those teams would have to combine to win less than 3.5 games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. All right. Now I'm convinced that now I'm just being trolling. Or trolled. I'm being trolled. I'll leave it go. If the Rams lose, that's all that matters. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, you ready to talk about some football now that we're?
I really hope now. I really hope that there's some scenario where the inverse happens, and then it's just that's where your notifications are.
Yeah, I'm right, but yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot about the tie. Sorry, guys. I forgot about the all too common tie. My fault. But if the Seahawks win, they're in. Also wrong. Top Dog was trolling. All right, so fine. Anyway, let's go. Philly Zebo Laffy. I ain't have you as the type to think you're right about everything. I don't, man. I don't. I'm just saying that the Rams have to lose. That's all. All right, let's go. Zach Charbonnet, how much? How much Charbonnet are we getting to today? Because for me, the price point once again on DraftKings, they have done it again. I mean, I know that the whole Kenneth Walker thing was maybe not necessarily anticipated, but dude, the 8,400 on Charbonnet, this guy should be up there with the highest priced players tonight.
It's not as bad as it could have been, right? He's 11K on FanDuel. He's the 8,400 on DraftKings. He's underpriced, but he could have been the normal backup price and been like 4K or something. And then he just would have been, 90% owned.
Oh, for sure. I mean, 8,400. I'm not saying 8,400 is super cheap, but I'm saying he should be like 9,800.
Maybe they changed the pricing because the Seahawks don't have to win tonight.
All right. But maybe Rams have to lose. We all know this. All right. Do you think though that because right now he's my highest exposed player if I combine captain and flex. I have a lot of Caleb Williams. I have a lot of guys like him and Gino at the flex position, but I'm pretty loaded on Zach Charbonnet, captain. Outside of that, my captain exposure is actually pretty thinned out. Like I have a lot of Charbonnet, and then I'm pretty flat between, Caleb, JSN, DeAndre Swift, Gino, Keenan Allen, all between like 18 and 13%.
Charbonnet isn't even so he's very popular. He's not insanely popular though. We've got him starting with his DraftKings ownership. He is 43% owned in the flex spot. In the captain spot, he's 19% owned. Or sorry, 17% owned is the number now. So he's the most owned captain, and he's fairly popular in the flex spot. But I actually thought he was going to end up being a little bit more popular than what he is. So, I mean, I guess too, it's Showdown. It's a 1-game slate. So it's going to just naturally spread out some of the exposure. You can only make so many lineups that have him in all of them. But yeah, he to me, per your question before, how much Charbonnet? If I was playing 20 lineups today, I would be totally fine with having him in 18 to 20 of those lineups.
A captain? Yeah. Hey, if I'm playing the $3 250K contest on DraftKings, where would I put the archetype slider for the Sims? I actually, Greg, I put that one at marquee. I don't know where you put it. I put it at marquee just because anyone can enter that. So it's like you're going to see all the standard names that you'd see in the higher stakes stuff in there as well.
Yeah, which was I'm trying to find
the play action.
For the play action. Yeah, so really unless you're playing single entry for Showdown, I think you want to leave it on marquee for most of these contests. The ownership ends up being pretty uniform. It can only deviate so much on a one game slate. Where it could look different is in something like the $100 single entry, where maybe your Charbonnet type players are going to be a little bit more popular. But for the $3, the $5 150 max, the big $20, $15 contest, whatever the buy-in is, the ownership tends to be pretty similar for Showdown slates.
Yeah. We had a super chat too. I'll hit on this from Shamar. What's up, dude? Came in first on FanDuel, 13th place on DraftKings. I have Lamar, captain, Henry, Andrews, Schultz, Ravens D, and Mechie at flex on DraftKings. Lamar at MVP. Henry, Andrews, Schultz, and Ravens. Good stuff, man. Thanks for the super chat. Nice to see it. How about DeAndre Swift for you? One of the guys where if this game ends up staying competitive, I think you just see a lot of work from Swift. Now, Matt mentioned this morning, and I don't even disagree, that before he went down with a concussion, you saw Roschon Johnson getting some additional work. Last week, he only had one touch. Swift saw, there were only 10 carries among running backs, but 9 of 10. He saw 12 touches to 1 from Roschon Johnson, but Swift still played 73% of snaps. He's probably the cheapest you're ever going to get him. He's really the cheapest you're going to find a regular starting running back in a Showdown slate, if you think about it, right?
Yeah, so the price point is right. I'm a little concerned about his workload, considering that this game, all the debate aside about whether this game is meaningful for the Seahawks, we know it's not meaningful for the Chicago Bears. It has zero meaning to the Chicago Bears. And with it also being a short week, I get a little bit concerned that they just decide to spread out the touches in the backfield. So DeAndre Swift at $7,600. Yeah, he's a good value option relative to his salary. He's underpriced just as Zach Charbonnet is. I'm kind of scared to be too much different than the field on DeAndre Swift, though, because it wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world to me if they're just like, hey, another 8-9 carries for DeAndre Swift, a couple of targets, and they try to work in other guys.
You think so?
I don't think it's the most likely scenario, but I think it's possible. He's an older running back on a short week. It's only, few days rest here. The game does not matter for the Bears at all. I just don't know what the reason would be to keep running a veteran into the ground. It doesn't mean that they won't just do it anyway, because that's what they've been doing for the entire season. And I hear you. Even though he only got 9 carries last week, he was still on the field for 70% of the snaps. But it's definitely a concern of mine.
I like Roschon Johnson a little bit today too, though. This isn't one of those spots where I'd want to play both of them, but Johnson's been the better goal line back. I saw enough of DeAndre Swift in Philly and enough of him this year to know that this guy is not a good goal line back. I mean, he has two touchdowns at the goal line this season with far more opportunities than Johnson. Roschon Johnson has 9 goal line carries and 6 goal line touchdowns. So if they start working him back in there, that could be significant. He's an interesting play to me for sure today. And yeah. Go ahead.
Very low owned, only $2,600, and I think he's 3% owned. I think it's a really good contrarian option.
Me too. But again, I said a lot on Monday's game that I was like, hey, I'll play some Josh Jacobs with Brooks or with Wilson or something like that. To me, this is a little bit different because you've got a team that is a home dog. They're not a good, potent offense. They're not a 14-point favorite that has the Vikings on the horizon the following week and is facing the Saints. This is different. So maybe you see it differently than me, Greg, but I'm not. I don't. And I guess the argument you can make is that they're both very cheap, and that maybe Swift could get a lot of work done in between the 20s and Roschon Johnson punches one in or something like that. But I'm not in love with playing both of them together.
Yeah, Johnson's cheap enough to where if I was hand building a lineup or two, I wouldn't put them together. But if I had lineups where they showed up together in the Sims, I wouldn't say like, oh, this is something I cannot have or anything like that. Just a $2,600 price tag for Roschon Johnson. It's very cheap.
We got $100 super chat. $100 super chat from Wally Balls. This guy just keeps. I mean, I told you, I think he's from the future.
Yeah. We've discovered the world's first time traveler. It's Wally Balls from YouTube.
I mean, why not? It's what was the movie? It was on like some obscure TV network where he traveled back in time to, I think he was
Back to the
trying.
Future.
That's not it. I think he was trying to prevent the assassination of JFK. Whatever. He's like this guy. Wally Balls, $100 super chat. Hope everybody had a great holiday. Tools and Sims helped me take down or come in second a few big tournaments. Thanks to everybody on Stokastic. What cheap options are you guys getting more of than the field tonight? Great question. And yeah, congrats again, man. But I think it's time you just start letting other people, you know.
Yeah, you tell us who like this cheap. Let us know.
Yeah, you've had your share, brother. Cheap options are not all that great today because, okay, so outside of Roschon Johnson, if you were to try and pick some guys for the Bears, it's difficult because you've got 3 wide receivers. They really only use 3 receivers unless you're talking about, you know, Tyler Scott or Colin Johnson. And those guys are going to play a combined 10 snaps. If you're lucky, it's Odunze, it's Keenan Allen, it's DJ Moore. Then Cole Kmet's going to play 90% of snaps. He's, Cole Kmet's, he's either going to have 1 target or maybe he's going to have a blow up game. Who knows? He's viable. So on that side, for me, it would be Kmet or it would be, Roschon, who Greg just talked about.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I don't have anybody. And then on the Seattle side, look, it's going to be ugly, but yeah, you're going to have to at least consider a $3,200 Tyler Lockett, not because he's been getting a lot of work, right? But because he's on the field for 70% of snaps every week. And then there's guys like Noah Fant and AJ Barner. So it's pretty much what unless you wanted to go to Kenny McIntosh today.
By the way, some very, very, very funny comments in the YouTube chat trying to figure out what movie it was. We're doing some good sleuthing in there.
Dan got it. 11/22/63. What? Yeah, Dan. What network was that on? I remember watching that. Hulu. Was it Hulu? Marvin said the same thing. It was on Hulu. Okay, I guess back when it came out, Hulu was obscure. So in my head, Greg, I'm like, oh, it's a now defunct. I saw like a new network out there that's Acorn TV or some shit. I can't keep track of all of these. You got Peacock, you got Acorn, you got Freebie or Free. There's too many.
Yeah, and the other thing too is you actually pay for them because you want to watch something, and then you forget you have it, and you just pay for it for years. It's a good deal. It's a good deal by them.
It's very smart.
Let's see. My answer to Wall. By the way, shout out as well to a lot of people gifted out YouTube memberships. I saw we had Chris Williams gifted out a handful of YouTube memberships, and also left the super chat and said just atoning. SC left us as well some YouTube memberships, and Wally Balls did as well. So shout out to all you guys. We really do appreciate it. For my answer to Wally's question, cheap option we're getting to more of than the field. Okay, so what price tag were you thinking, Lofty? Like sub 4K?
I guess you could throw Kmet in there too. I also don't know how dirt cheap you need to go to on a slate like this. It's not really the price of Charbonnet and DeAndre Swift and Odunze and even like 2 mid 9K quarterbacks. To me, I don't really think you have to go crazy tonight.
Yeah, definitely don't have to do anything too insane. The Bears defense was showing up in some sims for me. As I say, I don't do anything, too insane, but Bears defense is one, sub 4K, Roschon Johnson, who we talked about before, and then Noah Fant at $3,600. So those 3 for myself.
Who would you say your favorite is?
Of the cheap guys, Roschon Johnson. Whenever there's a showdown slate where I feel like I could craft a reason for why somebody has more upside than what the field is recognized, and then they also provide leverage in some sort of way, I really do tend to gravitate towards it. They fail more often than not. I don't want to make it seem like Roschon Johnson is some can't miss idea for today. He had 1 carry last week, so he definitely doesn't have to be massively involved in the game or anything like that. But just at this point in the season, there's just very clear reasons that the Bears could potentially say, hey, let's give other guys touches outside of DeAndre Swift. And Roschon Johnson would pretty clearly be the next man up in that scenario. So Anyway, Roshan Johnson, don't want to talk too much more about him, but yeah, $2,600. He's my favorite.
I think I'm with you here. I'll also say Lockett, just because if a guy's playing 70% of snaps and, running routes on those snaps, like on the majority of dropbacks, it's been a really ugly season for him, dude, but at least you've got a guy that's going to be on the field, right? It's not usually, a lot of times these 3K players are like real part-time guys as far as snap share goes, not even targets, right? You're talking about like 30% snap share guys. So do I love Tyler Lockett? Absolutely not. But I think he's still viable down there. 0744 Pete said, perhaps Wally can tell us if a Seattle win tonight is really meaningful.
Yeah, it's true. Wally, tell us, will we get, because there's only way a time traveler can know this sort of situation. Will the Vikings, Bills, 49ers, Commanders, Bengals, and Browns combine for less than 3.5 wins the rest of the season? It's the most important thing we can know right now.
Yeah, it is important. What are the teams?
Vikings, Bills, 49ers, Commanders, Bengals, Browns. So the Rams would need those teams to combine for more than 3.5 wins for them to clinch the division this weekend with a loss.
Got it. Right.
Or sorry, a win and those teams combine for more than 3.5
I know what you meant. Yeah.
And they clinch. I
know what you meant. Which is a lot more feasible than what Seattle would need in week 18 to happen. I don't really see a ton of value out there unless you're talking about the guys that we discussed. A lot of times you're going to get these weeks, Greg, where you have, like, let's think of some teams, right? Where you've got like a Packers where there's just a bunch of cheap guys. They're a mess to try and figure out. Or even, Dallas, we saw Dallas in that Cincinnati game where you're really just throwing darts with a lot of those cheap guys behind CeeDee Lamb. Just go down the list. There's a lot of those teams that exist out there. Chicago, you just know where the ball's going. And really, for the most part, Seattle, you do too. JSN and Metcalf. If you had to prioritize the top tier guys, this is one of the questions that I think gets a little bit more difficult. Is JSN your clear top option, or would you put him neck and neck with a DJ Moore, a Keenan Allen, and those? I hate to talk about it like that, like who do you like more, this guy or that guy? Because it could just be a build that we like more than anything else. But I can say definitively that JSN is the guy I'm getting the most of.
All right, let me go and look. And what is my exposure stopped showing up? That's weird. I'm trying to figure out who it is I have the most of. The answer, I'm 99% sure the answer was JSN. I just am trying to figure out what the exact number was that I had here. But anyway, to me, JSN is going to be the answer, Lofty. And we've seen Tyler Lockett kind of get phased out of the Seahawks offense to some extent. A lot of it has to do with how good JSN has been this year. And then even DK Metcalf in the second half of the season has taken a back seat to JSN. What ended up happening, it's not exactly a Wally Pipp scenario because, DK Metcalf still plays. But earlier on in the season, Jackson Smith and Jigba, he was not playing the same role he is now. And then what happened was Metcalf gets hurt. JSN plays incredibly well while he's out, and he just never let go of being the number one target option for Geno Smith. So it's not that I would want to be getting away from DK Metcalf or anything like that. But if I can only roster one of the pass catchers from this game and pay up for him, it would be JSN.
He really has become the clear number one on that team right now. And Matt mentioned on this morning show that Metcalf has been taking a lot of heat in the media, surrounding all of the playing like he's not as big as he is. I wonder how he passes the tests. I've always wondered that. Wonder how DK Metcalf passes the PED tests. You ever wonder that?
No, not really. Because, all right, so drug tests in baseball, football, basketball, they're not drug tests. They're IQ tests. if you are somebody who has a brain, like you're
True.
not Fernando Tatis,
True.
you're gonna end up passing this
True.
test.
Yeah, that's true. Because there's no way so many of these guys are just straight natural. You're right. I mean, plus it makes the game better. So the league's best interest is to kind of be like, look, we test, but just don't be stupid. You're right.
Yeah. And it's also, it's an out for them for liability. If there is to be some sort of devastating injury to a player, and let's say there's some crazy lawsuit, the NFL could say, we did everything in our power to prevent this injury from happening or whatever it is that might occur. And they could point to, we have these safety protocols, we have these doctors who are on the sidelines. Look, we do drug testing. So we couldn't have assumed that players would be on steroids or whatever. So a lot of it's for liability reasons as well. And talking out of my ass here, it's not like I really know, but I do really strongly believe that. But then also, in all professional sports, there's a ton of guys who are taking something that also a lot of it isn't even going to be on a banned list. It's synthetic produced things that they are able to afford because players make so much money, and the testing can never be ahead of the drug use. You could always create something new that isn't being tested for. You can't create a test for something that hasn't been made.
Of course. Yeah, there's gear being sprinkled around. I don't know what kind.
You think LeBron is spending millions of dollars per year on his body to still be good at age 40, and it's all because he's eating, chicken and milk or something like that? No, but I don't care.
Yeah. Nate said, whoa, so these guys probably don't just put in the work every day? Kind of a wild take. No, they absolutely put the work in. Yeah, of course they put the work in. You don't just take something and look good when you wake up the next day. Anyway, look, I don't actually know. All I'm saying, the man is a freak of nature, okay? He's a behemoth. He's a monster. And he's been taking hits for not playing physically. Matt mentioned that to me this morning. I said that. I'm convinced that he's just not 100% healthy right now. He had the shoulder, he had the knee, he had the MCL that he missed a month with. Remember that? Fortunately, a bye was sprinkled in between there. But I'm convinced that this guy can't be 100% because why would he not be playing like the same DK Metcalf we've seen in the past? Either way, I still have no issues with him today. I still think he's fine. But at captain, I only have 5% Metcalf right now. At the flex, DK Metcalf, I have 20%. That scares me a little bit, but it doesn't scare me as much as it would have earlier in the year if we were talking about this same game.
I'd be more afraid of not having, and also, same as you, where it's really, we're just making a case for who it is we prefer. I prefer JSN to DK Metcalf. I prefer DK Metcalf to Tyler Lockett, but it's still a scenario where if I can only pick one guy, I'd be more afraid to avoid JSN than I would be to avoid DK Metcalf, just based on what their role has been in the offense over the last couple of months.
He's the best player on Seattle for today, him and Charbonnet. Then it falls off a cliff, right? You're talking JSN, Charbonnet. Past that, I don't have much. Well, I do, but I mean, I don't have a ton of love for these other options. Roschon Johnson would be the cheapest. I have 12% Tyler Lockett right now. How about this? If you look at my flex positions right now, Caleb Williams, DeAndre Swift, Charbonnet, Geno, JSN, and some Bears defense would be my highest exposed players at the flex spot.
Yeah, Bears defense showing up a good amount in the Sims. Of all the things, because I know this is a question people like to ask us, is what is the Sims giving you a lot of that makes us uncomfortable? We might want to change. For me, it's the Bears defense. Bears defense shows up a ton if you make 0 changes.
They do. Oddly, I don't hate it. I don't actually hate it.
Is it because the game doesn't matter for the Seahawks?
You took the words out of my mouth. No, I don't hate it. I mean, would I tamp it down a little bit? Sure. Because right now I have 45% Bears at flex. That's a tad bit uncomfortable. But I'd be okay with maybe 30% Bears at flex.
It's a little high for me. A little more than I would want to have. I don't hate them as a value-saving, low-cost option or anything like that, because, they are still fairly low owned at 18%. But yeah, I mean, when I ran everything through the Sims first time, they showed up in about half my lineups. That I was like, that's a little much for me of the Bears defense.
Neither of these guys are immune to turnovers, though. I'll tell you that much. Only Kirk Cousins has thrown more picks than Geno this season, and Geno has thrown some really bad ones, man.
Oh, I know, because I'm somebody who I've been a backer of the Seahawks this year, Lofty, which even now the line that I have doesn't look terrible. I bet them to win the division before the season started. It has had many peaks and valleys, many highs.
Hey, if the Rams lose, they have a shot.
So I have been invested in this stupid team in Geno Smith. And the amount of times that they are marching down the field, it seems that they have a very easy scoring opportunity coming their way, that Geno Smith is 6 of 7 passing for 70 yards on the drive. And then he just throws the worst pass you've ever seen in your life in the end zone for an interception. He does that twice per week. It is infuriating. So yeah, he is certainly not immune to turnovers. And when they happen, they almost always happen at inopportune times.
So yeah, the Bear, and then also Seattle might just have 9 sacks on Caleb Williams. So both of these defenses to me are pretty decent. I like both kickers as well. I do nothing to get away from Myers or Santos in a spot like this. Truthfully, would you be shocked if this ended up being a 20-17 game, or a 20-23 game, or however you want to project the kickers to have a good game? It wouldn't shock me. What's the total? 42.5. It's not super cold at Soldier Field, so that's good. Usually this time of year, it's pretty damn cold, but possibly some rain, 44 degrees, not a ton of wind. No problem with kickers here either.
Yeah, absolutely not. A lot of times at this time of year, it will be windy in Chicago, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be a massive issue tonight.
Yeah. I agree. All right, talk to me. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say high-priced options. We haven't talked about the quarterbacks yet. Caleb Williams is, I don't know that there's any player who, if you just looked at what's said about a player on social media and then looked at their numbers, I don't know there'd be a player who less matches up with what's said about them versus what their numbers are than Caleb Williams. And it's not to say that I thought Caleb Williams is going to be a higher upside player this year than what he's been. But he's not been nearly as bad as what some of the takes on him make him out to be. And he's had some really individually big passing games. A lot of them have come when he's been throwing the ball in garbage times. But you look at him overall for the year, 19 touchdown passes to 5 interceptions. He's over 3,000 passing yards. So he's going to be like somewhere in the neighborhood of close to 4,000 by the end of the season with like a 4-to-1 touchdown to interception rate. I think Caleb Williams, and you guys see here on the screen as well with the Sims, I think Caleb Williams is a really strong option. And I get a ton of exposure to him.
I like him too. I mentioned on the strategy show, he's 7th among all quarterbacks in rushing yards this year.
Yeah, he's been solid this year. And I think that there's also a lot of us are spoiled based on the last handful of years. There's been a lot of rookie quarterbacks who have just been one of the best QBs in the league right out of the gate. CJ Stroud last year, he's not been as good this year, but last year was one of the best QBs in the league. And we've seen that a lot over the last, 8-9 years, where one of the better quarterbacks in the league has typically been a rookie. This year we had Jaden Daniels doing it as well. So it's not like Caleb Williams has been a top 5 quarterback in the league or anything like that. But I think the expectations for him were so high, or just people were already kind of disliking him and they were ready to just pile on him for whatever ended up happening this year. He's really not been terrible, especially if you look at his numbers. And I think he's under-owned tonight.
I have a lot of him. He's my highest owned flex player.
I dig it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Both Geno and Caleb are perfectly fine. We had a question earlier. Do you worry about having a lineup without a running back? I mean, that's two answers for me there, Greg. On the surface, no, but just given their price points, given how like Swift is 7K 74 and Charbonnet 74, they just fit really well in lineups is the thing. So do you have to? No, but what are your lineups looking like without them? Because Keenan Allen and Moore and JSN, all those guys are pretty expensive.
Yeah, I'd have to look through. Let's see. If I go to the Sims and I just try to filter lineups that don't have Roshan, don't have Charbonnet, don't have Swift, it's probably not leaving very many top lineups. I'll check though.
Yeah, check. It's a nice thing about the Sims is you can just hop in there and exclude those and see what it looks like.
All right. So does not contain Swift. Yeah, this is not going to be very many lineups, especially because Charbonnet rates out so well in our data. All right, I'll just do Swift, and I won't even consider the backups here. We'll just do Swift and Charbonnet.
Yeah, that's all you got to do.
And yeah, it's only a few of my top 150 lineups that have neither of the starting running backs.
How many? What would you say? Like 10?
It was less than that. I turned the filter off. I could go back. It was not very many, though.
Okay. So we got any questions coming in? Also, today's the last day. PortfolioEV 50% off. So I spent most of my day answering DMs about this. Happy to do so, by the way. The 3 questions I get asked the most, Greg, are, can I do it if I only have one sports book available to me, like in Florida or something? Well, I wasn't sure if you could, but we just talked to Colton last week, someone who had hit Greg up after seeing his tweets. This guy turned $2,500 into $13,000 profit in 30 days, 40 days with just Hard Rock, which is preposterous. And then I had 3 other people message below when I had posted that saying, I do the same thing. I have Hard Rock and sometimes I use Flip. The other one is, can I use it on my phone? Yeah, I place every single bet from my phone with the mass entry tool. I would assume you do too, Greg. I know you're a big mobile bettor, or your iPad.
The only person who isn't, Ben Ross didn't even know you're allowed to bet. He didn't know that was a thing you could do. Outside of him, everybody I know bets from their phones. If you want to, you can bet from desktop too, obviously. But yeah, our betting tools are all optimized for mobile use.
Maybe Ben's watching right now. I found out recently, the guy actually doesn't know how to use a phone.
Well, he knows how to use a rotary phone.
I was like, you can download the apps or something. And he goes, you have those? I said, what do you mean? He's like, you have apps on your phone?
Yeah. He thought we were talking about Fridays. He had no clue. He had no idea what we were talking about.
What were we talking about?
Yeah, we were talking about, I don't even remember how it came up with apps, but like, yeah, he didn't even know it was a thing you could do.
Yeah. And then the third question is, do I get limited? And it's like, eventually, if you're winning consistently, anyone's going to, unless you're one of those like wild plus EV parlay bettors where you have the massive downswings and then hit one, but that's too much for a lot of people. Anyway, Greg and I are a testament to this. We've crushed with these tools recently. So is everyone that's used them. The screenshots are everywhere. The Discord's been amazing. The Monday heading into Christmas Eve was a massive day for all of us. Hopefully you jumped in. Hopefully you did. But if you didn't, basketball tomorrow and hockey returns tomorrow. Hockey's been dominant. We have a ton of football this week. A lot of big hockey and NBA slates. Just seriously, hit us up, DM us, ask us in Discord if you have questions. We're happy to answer them, but the link's in the description and the pinned comment. Market-based process, man. Just finding the discrepancies across these books, calculating the true odds, and smashing them with mass entry tool, getting hundreds of bets down a day with zero effort, minimal effort. I got 100+ bets down today with like 20 minutes tops. Gift EV is the promo. Use the link in the description or in the chat. Gift EV when you check out. It's awesome. It is awesome. What are you up to on your $100 bankroll challenge? Like 730 or something?
It's right around $700. I think 692 is the number. Maybe
That's
it's
amazing.
Somewhere around there. I pull up 692.
Any interest in 5-1 Bears stacks? I built one with Matt today, and it actually simmed out in the lineup, in the single lineup sim at like 149.
Hey, we just got one question from, this wasn't really a question. It was more of a request from Discord. It was just Justin saying, please say something nice about my Bears. There you go. Lofty simmed out a 5-1 lineup that came out pretty good this morning. There you go, Justin. You feel better about yourself. Yeah, I don't have an issue with that, as I don't really have anything that I find to be problematic as a build for any kind of showdown slates. I guess the question would be, if you're building a 5-1 stack, who's the player you're most apt to use from the Seahawks? It's probably Charbonnet for me, just because he gets so involved in the passing game for the Seahawks in these games where Kenneth Walker's out and they're trailing. Was that who you used as the one Seahawk?
Yeah.
All right.
In that one, I believe it was Charbonnet. Yep. It was either Sharp. Do you remember, Jordan? Was it Charbonnet or JSN? I don't remember.
No, I don't remember either. I can look at the lineups we made though earlier. 1 second.
Yeah, I'm just curious because it was a nice lineup, and it was very unique. You know, it wasn't something that you were going to see a lot of people play at all. So yeah, there's ways to do it. I'm really not opposed to it at all. It's simply just a matter of whether or not like you are okay with having some lineups that on paper don't look great. That's all. It's going to happen. You're going to get some lineups that on paper don't look fantastic, but I'm not opposed to it. I'm looking now, Greg. I'm scrolling through. I have some 5-1 Bears stacks.
By the way, I ended up, it's a 6 of my top 150 lineups do not have either the starting running backs. So possible, yeah, but it's a thin way to go about building lineups. And actually, if I look at my top 10 lineups, 4 of them are 5-1 Bear stacks, Lofty.
4 of them are?
Yeah, of my top 10 Sim RY lineups, 4 out of 10, 5-1
okay.
Bears.
2 of my top 10 were, but I'm okay with that.
The run back, by the way, JSN, Charbonnet. This one, the run back is Metcalf. The run back in this one is Charbonnet again. And then the run back here, Charbonnet. So either Charbonnet or JSN were the ones who showed up most.
Which makes sense. I mean, those are the 2 guys that do you have any run backs with Metcalf on there?
Yeah. One of them was a Metcalf.
You said one. Okay. One, which is fine too. I mean, Metcalf at least has the ability to go off. Do I love it? No. Would I prefer Charbonnet and JSN? Sure. Just looking at some of the ones that I have, though, if I were to scroll to the top here, I'll give you one. It has, let me pull it up. Okay. So captain, because you were going over what the run back looked like. I'll give you the captain in these 5-1s. Oh, I do. I have 3. I have 3 5-1s in the top 10. Swift captain, Caleb captain, and Keenan Allen captain, of which I have no problem with any of that.
Yeah. These lineups too, while the build of them is contrarian, of a 5-1 Bears, the players within it, it's not like it's anything insane. And also it makes sense that you'd have the Bears defense in a 5-1 Bears stack as well.
For sure. Yeah. You know, maybe Geno struggles today. We'll find out. Maybe not. Important game for that Seattle squad. All right. Let me get these lineups in 1 second here. If you guys have any questions, feel free to fire away. We can hit on some of those. All right. I'm locked and loaded. We're good to go. Let's see.
So as far as captains, we haven't talked too much about the captains or the MVPs over on FanDuel. Charbonnet is the one who shows up the most for me overall. He's the only player I have in more than 20% of lineups in the captain spot for DraftKings purposes. If I'm going to be, he's also the most popular one. If I'm going to be a little bit more contrarian, just to talk about who I brought up before, Caleb Williams. I get the second most of Caleb Williams in the multiplier spot. You talked about his rushing upside, Lofty. He has been running the football. I can't remember actually now if you had brought up his rushing yard total, if I was reading a comment from somebody who mentioned his rushing yards when we were bringing him up before as well. But he's also rushed for 442 yards this year. As far as 300-yard passing games, he's got 4 of them this season. There's a real ceiling for Caleb Williams that also comes with some of the rushing totals, which is always important to me. I don't like to play non-rushing quarterbacks in the multiplier spot for showdown slates. He hasn't had any rushing touchdowns this year, but considering what the yardage has looked like and the amount of times he's been willing to run, I think it's a little bit fluky. I think we should expect there to be some rushing scoring upside for Caleb Williams. I mean, 6 carries last week. He's had at least 4 carries in every game since November 10th now. And these are clearly not kneel downs because they've lost every game for forever now. So Caleb Williams, there's an actual ceiling for him to have 60, 70 rushing yards and a touchdown.
Yeah. Yeah. What I had said was that he's top 7 among quarterbacks in rushing
was
yards this year, which is pretty good. He's not bad there. And yeah, I went over some captains that I had earlier in the slate. Let me see. I reran it. Let's see if anything changed. It's Swift and Charbonnet are my 2 highest exposed guys. Then JSN, Caleb, Gino, and Keenan Allen in that order. Those 6 are the most of what I have. So that. Oh wait, hold on. I had 20 favorite. Hold on. Let me see if I can. Hold on. Yeah, there you go. Okay. So flip Charbonnet. Swift goes down a bit there. Charbonnet and JSN at the top. Swift is still top 5 for me, but it's Charbonnet, JSN, Caleb Williams. I was looking at my play action exposures where I have more DeAndre Swift at captain.
Gotcha. Yeah, and it's really the same for me over on FanDuel as well, which will happen if there's a slate where I'm not going cheap at the captain spot. I generally get to about the same guys on FanDuel and DraftKings. So FanDuel as well. My 2 most rostered MVPs, Caleb Williams, Zach Charbonnet.
Are you getting to any cheap options at captain? Because I don't know how necessary it is today. It doesn't feel very necessary with the value we're getting in that mid-range.
Yeah, the answer is no, but I want to see who the one is that I have the most of. It actually might even be nobody. Charbonnet, Swift, Williams, JSN, Keenan Allen. I have 2 lineups with Noah Fant, and he's literally the only cheap one. Like I don't have any defense captain lineups. I don't have any kicker captain lineups. I don't have Lockett captain lineups. I've got a couple of Adunze lineups if we're considering Adunze cheap, but if we're talking about punt guys, I have 2 out of 150 lines with Noah Fant, and that is it. Every other player that I have in the captain spot is at least a $10,000 salary in the multiplier.
We had a question too, asking for Michael, do you think having Charbonnet and McIntosh both in the same lineup is too much? I mean, I don't love it. But if you know what? No, I guess it's not insane because if this game, let's just say it gets out of hand, and we've seen Chicago really fall behind in games. If it does get out of control, then you might just see both of these guys have the ability to coexist. I see it differently than I did Green Bay against New Orleans, as I mentioned, but I'd rather that than Swift and Roschon Johnson in the same lineup, even though I like Roschon Johnson more than McIntosh.
Yeah, do I have any McIntosh lineups? Let's see. I don't have any lineups with him.
Nothing.
Yeah. None for me. So just by that, I would prefer the Roschon Johnson and DeAndre Swift combination, but it's not that I love it or anything like that.
How much Roschon Johnson do you have? Did you boost him?
Yeah, 16%.
Okay.
Which is like 5x the field.
Jerome asked, that's definitely up there. Who is the highest owned play tonight? It's got to be Charbonnet on DraftKings.
Charbonnet in the captain, Caleb Williams in the flex. Actually, Geno Smith's a little bit more popular than Caleb Williams in the flex. But yeah, 3 players were really popular today, the 2 quarterbacks and Zach Charbonnet.
Any other thoughts before we say goodbye for the day?
Just looking through my lineups to make sure there isn't anything that we missed on, but I don't have any super crazy off the wall plays. Didn't really see a whole need to go too cheap or anything like that. I don't know. Anything that you noticed, because I know you were just uploading your lineups. Did anything in your final run show up different than what you were expecting?
No, the only thing was I also boosted Roschon Johnson just to get a little bit. I got to 10%. I'm okay with that. I didn't want to have none of him in case, because I share the same sentiment as you. Not that I think it's going to happen, but I think it's possible, especially, I know he wasn't on the injury report, but I do think it's possible that given the injuries and banged up nature of DeAndre Swift recently, that there's a possibility you just happen to see more Roschon Johnson this week. And if that's the case, I would prefer to have at least a little bit of exposure there.
Yeah, that's where I was at on it.
Yeah, I'm looking. Let's see. What do I have? Yeah. Not a lot, little bit. Doesn't make a huge difference. Who would you be worried about having or not having? I like to do this. Who would you be worried about not having?
All right, so let me sort by somebody who I don't have, or
yeah, exactly. Someone that you don't have or you're underweight on.
All right, so who am I most underweight to? Oh, okay. I think I know what the answer is here, actually. Nah, actually, never mind. I'm not going to say that.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say the Seahawks defense, just because of how many times Caleb Williams throws the ball, but he's been pretty immune to create. Like, he's only thrown 5 interceptions this year.
How many lost fumbles?
2.
That's it.
Yeah. Remember earlier in the year, you and I were pretty big on trying to play some defense against Caleb Williams, just thinking, hey, there's going to be a lot of turnovers here. You've got a young quarterback who's throwing the ball upwards of 40, 50 times per game. But those turnovers just never really materialized this year. So I'm getting to hardly none of the Seahawks defense. So I was going to say them. But, I mean, just based on how turnover, I don't even know, whatever the opposite of turnover prone is, that Caleb Williams has been, I'm less inclined to give the Seahawks out as my answer. So instead, I'll say I have very little of Geno Smith in the captain. I favored a lot of other players in the captain spot. Geno Smith also has some rushing ability, but he's somebody who I didn't get as much in the captain of.
I usually don't get a lot of quarterbacks at captain. Unless it's like the Lamar Jackson type. Even, the Josh Allens this year, not a ton. But yeah, Jalen Hurts get a lot more of that, those type of guys. I don't typically get a ton of these. I don't want to say immobile because they're not. Like Caleb Williams definitely is. I have a decent amount of him. But I also don't know if Geno Smith's even going to run with that knee injury he's got.
That's true. And with the game not mattering, save it for the game that matters next week.
Well, it only matters next week if the Rams happen to lose this week.
This is true.
I hope they mention it at the top of the broadcast. Like, yeah, it wouldn't hurt if the Seahawks won, but they don't need this game. Oh, that'd be vindicating. They say they've got their sights set on Saturday night at home against the Arizona Cardinals, where the Los Angeles Rams will host them. And
I have a feeling they're not going to open the broadcast by explaining to the audience that the game doesn't matter.
Hey, no implications here whatsoever. Appreciate you guys hanging out. I agree, Jerome. Season went by fast. Too fast, he said. I know. I hate it. I think you know what? I was talking to Gajeski. I'm trying to convince him to do some best ball content with me. Like, just get into some heavy best ball stuff throughout the spring and summer. Keep ourselves occupied and entertained. I would enjoy that.
Are you doing any of the playoff best ball drafts?
I might. They're so tough. Like those things. Admittedly, I've done them every year, but only a couple. The whole process to that is maddening. Have you done them?
Oh, I've been doing them since I was like 12 years old. My friends and I used to do them together. So it's kind of cool that it became an actual thing because we've been like this exact same, very similar format to the playoff best ball leagues. My friends and I have been doing together for 20 plus years now. So I do some of them for the nostalgia reasons. I don't think I have any particular edge in them. It's just something I do if I'm like, hey, I'm eating lunch right now. Maybe I'll do a draft. I've done like 4 or 5 of them so far.
I'll do them just because, like you said, because I can. I used to do them too with buddies, but it would be, they were different. You could select your team. It wasn't a draft. Like you fill it out. You'd fill it out. And I won it 2 years in a row. And then I've done the other ones, like MFL used to have those playoff drafts. But yeah, the underdog ones and stuff, they're tough. They're difficult.
Yeah, I did. We did snake drafts, and we also did it with a good amount of guys in the league. So you would have to really draft quarterbacks early, or else you'd get stuck with shit at quarterback.
Right. Hey, appreciate you guys. Follow Greg at G Ehrenberg DFS, me at Lafayette_D. As always, we got the promos going. The Sims promo. Sign up any sportsbook, get a free month. Portfolio EV's 50% off for the last day tonight with Gift EV. College football. Check it out down below. You're going to turn the game on, open up that description, say, oh, that looks good. I'll take that. And hit us up in Discord too. Make sure to join. Hit us up on Twitter if you have any questions. We're always happy to help. Hope you guys have a great rest of the night. And we'll see you back here. Tomorrow we got tournament strategy at 10 a.m. Yeah, man.